Hey everyone, in this video we're installing the RICHSOLAR solar panels on the Flatline Van Company's roof rack. Let's get right to it. This should be a fairly simple installation. I got my replacement panels, so very happy. No damage this time. Again, I went with the black aluminum frame kind of to match the theme that I got going on with the white and black kind of stealth appearance. I paired those with the RICHSOLAR black mounting hardware. Typically you'd see these being mounted up kind of like this, but we're going to actually flip that around so the panel itself sits lower on the rack so you can't see it when you're standing from the ground. I've went ahead and counted up all the hardware that I need to make this installation as easy as possible. I suggest just making sure you have everything accounted for. Last thing you want is being up on the roof and you're missing, you know, a couple bolts or a couple nuts here and there, and you have to head to the hardware store. A couple things you're going to need. We're going to need to drill a couple holes for the MC4 cables on the solar panels. So I purchased some weatherproof cable entry housings. You're going to need to secure those and seal them using the marine grade adhesive sealant. And then I'm debating whether I'm going to put the lap sealant, the self-leveling lap sealant again over these guys. We'll see how they hold up when I get them installed. You're going to need your tape measure to measure out the spacing on the aluminum extrusion. You're going to need a couple grommets for when you drill the hole and you run the MC4 cables through. These are going to see some movement, so you don't want this rubbing up against the bare metal of the roof, so these will help with that. And then I don't know if I'm going to need these, but maybe in a later video I'll show you how to crimp and install the connectors for the MC4 cables. The extension's needed when I go to hook it up to my electrical system. But other than that, I think we can go ahead and get started. And obviously, safety glasses and gloves is a must. We're going to be wiring this up in series so I can get adequate voltage for my solar generators that I'm going to be using to power up this build. Here's a good example of what I meant when I said I'm going to be reversing the brackets so they're upside down. You can see if I were to install it the typical way, the panel would stand off the roof rack at least an inch. This method will have it sit flush, if not lower than the side rails on the rack, so it won't be visible. Before I hop on the roof, I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to be wiring up my solar panels. I'm essentially going to be wiring it up in series as opposed to parallel or series parallel. Wiring these in series will actually allow me to utilize my solar generator. I'm going to be going with a Bluetti AC200, which requires a minimum voltage of 35 volts. So you can see in the back of this panel here, it'll focus, the open circuit voltage is 22.6 volts. So one of these panels will not be enough to operate the Bluetti AC200. So I'm going to be utilizing 3, which will effectively add 2 more solar panels on here, which will give 3 times the amount of voltage if you wire it up in series. What that is essentially doing is creating one big solar panel, and will leave you with a positive and a negative cable to plug into your solar generator. So to do that, you're just going to have to take a positive and a negative from each solar panel and wire them up, which will leave you with a positive and a negative to plug into your solar generator. Pretty simple, but wanted to show you guys that down here before I head up on the roof. It's always a good idea to double check the polarity of these cables. RichSolar has nicely labeled each one positive and negative. But it's always a good idea to double check. You can't really mess this up. There's a male and female end on each end. So once these are plugged in together, these two panels will be wired up in series. The next thing we're going to need to do is separate or spread out the aluminum extrusion members on the roof rack. The brackets are conveniently placed, at least the holes are, 22 inches apart. So that should make things fairly easy. I'm sliding in the T-nuts into the aluminum extrusion. You can actually just remove one side of the bolts and slip them through without having to remove the whole cross member, so that's helpful. You're gonna want the side with the threads facing up, so you have a little bit more bite when you go to install the bracket. For this 10 gauge wire, we're going to be using a 3/8 drill bit and pair that up with a 3/8 grommet so we don't tear up the cable. Just got done touching it up. Now we're going to install these grommets. I got to fish all this 10 gauge wire into those two little holes. You can see what's happening is the bolt threads are biting into the T-nut underneath and essentially creating a compression fitting that puts pressure on the bracket onto the aluminum extrusion. That's what keeps the solar panels from flying off and this thing from falling apart on you while you're driving. Here's a quick little tip. Go ahead and just insert your screwdriver into the hole and then wiggle it around. Make sure that the T-nut opening aligns with the bracket opening, and then you should be good to drop your bolt in there and not have any cross-threading issues. Alright, the last step is just to tighten up all the bolts. Make sure you double, triple check all of the fasteners are in tight and snug. The last thing you want is for this thing to fall apart while you're driving and hit somebody behind you or whatnot. But yeah, really happy how this turned out, guys. This thing looks super good, very stealth. You can see that the panel itself is sitting flush because I reversed the brackets. So now when you look at this thing from even eye level, the panels disappear. And I'll show you guys a view of what that looks like from the ground. But unless you really know what you're looking for, you won't be able to see these panels and the Max fan because Flatline Van Company's roof rack just conceals everything. So really happy with this combination of components. I think it's exactly how I envisioned it. I had this thing planned in my head from the start, and I think I've accomplished the vision really well. So let me know what you guys think. How would you guys do this differently? If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments section. Yeah, and I think there's roughly 6 inches of space between the side rail and the solar panel. So that'll give me a little bit of room to reach under there if I need to adjust some of the wiring and pull it out. So I give myself a little bit of slack to give me a little bit more flexibility, and that's gonna be huge down the road if I need to service this thing. So thanks for watching, and I'll leave you guys with some glamour shots, some photos of this thing up on the roof. Hopefully I can get some elevated photos for you. So just to recap, once again, I went with the RICHSOLAR 100 watt monocrystalline solar panels. These are supposedly the more efficient version. We'll see how it goes when I plug this into my Blue Eddy AC200 solar generator. Wired them up in series, so essentially created one big solar panel that should be able to charge up the AC200 in about 6 hours and have plenty of juice left. Again, I went with the low profile look so that from the ground you're not really seeing these things, and give it a little bit more stealth look. I'd rate this installation probably a 7 out of 10. Would have been helpful to get somebody to help me just carry the stuff around, but if you plan ahead, I think you'll be able to do this really cleanly and just make sure you have all the right tools. So I'll link all that down in the description. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Like and subscribe for more, so I can continue to do more videos. Thanks.